Okay, just take a second and look at this number. $150 million. Now, it might just look like a ton of money, right? But it's actually at the heart of this huge global conversation about how we work, what money even is, and really the future of our entire society. Because get this, that insane amount of money was made by one person in one single day. It's a story of such extreme, almost hard to believe individual performance that it kind of pulls one possible future into really sharp focus. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into. See, right now we're standing at a crossroads, and there are two very, very different paths ahead of us. So in this explainer, we are going to unpack both of them. All right, let's dive right in. That number, it belongs to an entrepreneur named Alex Hormozi, and it's what he pulled in from a record-breaking book launch he ran digitally, right from his office in Las Vegas. This was no lottery win, believe me. It was the result of a very specific, very powerful blueprint.
So how in the world did he do it? Well, here's the model. For years, Hormozi just gave away his best business advice for free. He built up this incredible amount of goodwill and trust. He basically made himself an undeniable expert in his field. So when he finally made this big, expensive, time-sensitive offer, more than 1 million people had already signed up just to hear it. It's an absolute masterclass in playing the long game.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly sums up the reality behind that number. Comparing him to David Goggins, the guy who's the symbol of insane endurance, is saying this isn't just about being smart. It's an obsessive, all-in kind of focus. We're talking about the kind of guy who works in a corner facing a wall just to kill distractions, who gives up a social life, all of it channeled into work. It's a level of sacrifice that most people just can't or frankly don't want to make.
And this is where things get really fascinating. Because at the exact same time that you have individuals like Hormozi pushing the absolute limits of what one person can do, there's this powerful counter-movement that's picking up steam everywhere. The push for a 4-day work week, a collective demand for less work, not more.
So you have these two powerful, competing ideas for our future, right? One is all about hyperproductivity, and the other is about collective well-being. But here's the thing. While we're all debating which path is the right one, there's a third force quietly emerging that could just make both of those paths completely irrelevant.
And yep, you guessed it. That force is artificial intelligence. The rise of AI is happening so fast and it's so profound that it might make the entire idea of a work week totally obsolete. And that opens up a whole new can of worms with some pretty radical questions and some even more radical solutions.
So one of the wildest ideas being talked about is this concept of an AI subsidy. Now, I know, at first glance, it sounds like straight-up socialism. But when you actually look at the economics of it, a very different picture starts to emerge. The basic logic is this. If a company can access salary and get the same or even better work from an AI, what happens to all that value they just created? And maybe more importantly, what happens to the person who no longer has a job to buy stuff?
This chart really breaks down the math. Let's say a company saves 60 grand by swapping a human for AI. Okay, so they could then pay a $30,000 subsidy to that person they just replaced, kind of like a form of universal basic income, and they would still add an extra 30 grand to their bottom line. The company wins, and society gets a safety net. It's a pretty mind-bending thought experiment for sure.
And this just raises the stakes completely, because this isn't just a question for you or me or some company. This is a question of national strategy. In a world where smart people and big money can move anywhere they want, the countries that figure this out first, they're probably going to win the future.
And our source material really highlights this by putting two very different national game plans side by side. One seems to be just reacting to problems, and the other is being driven by a super clear long-term vision. This quote was used to criticize what the source called a reactive policy in Australia. The idea is, instead of getting to the root cause of a problem, the proposed solution was this incredibly expensive, surface-level fix. It's kind of the perfect metaphor for a lack of forward-thinking strategy.
And the contrast is just wow. It's so stark when you compare that to a place like Dubai. On one side, you've got these stories of incentives gone wrong, like a nearly 50 times explosion in certain disability claims right after the benefits were increased. And on the other side, you've got Dubai executing this multi-decade master plan, actively trying to recruit the world's best talent, the best entrepreneurs, and the biggest money, with super clear incentives. It's a story of two totally different philosophies.
So how these countries compete, how they attract smart people and build for the future, it all comes down to the stability and the rules of their economic system. And that brings us to the most fundamental level of all, because right now, the very code of money itself is being rewritten.
I mean, just look at this. The most conservative, long-term thinking institutions on the planet are now getting into Bitcoin. Harvard University's endowment, which literally plans for centuries, is buying. Grant Cardone, the real estate titan, just used it in a massive deal with Blackstone. And now, trillions of dollars sitting in American retirement funds have the green light to invest. This isn't some fringe thing anymore. This is a full-on systemic shift.
You know, this quote really gets to the core of why this change is so tough for so many people to wrap their heads around. The source argues that for a lot of established experts and investors, the biggest hurdle isn't understanding the tech. It's the ego hit. It's admitting that this whole new system they probably dismissed for years might actually be the future. So, when you just step back and look at the whole picture, you see all these different threads starting to weave together. The crazy potential of human productivity, the unavoidable reality of automated labor, these competing national visions, and a brand new financial foundation. It all forces us to face one final unavoidable question.
Seriously? Think about that for a second. When an AI can do any thinking task for basically free and a robot can do any physical task, what is our unique contribution? What do we bring to the table? Is it our creativity? Is it leadership? Is it empathy? That's the question we all have to answer now, and the kind of society we build is going to depend entirely on the choice we make.